Hey, it's your boy, Dustin from the Flying Chairs, The Rise podcast. And today, oh shit, you won't believe it. I got my boy Mikey here with me. And this dude is the shit. He's a book author, and he's a journalist, and he's a UFO enthusiast and experiencer. And yeah, man, it's another like-minded person like myself. And yeah, we're ready to just talk about your books and who you are. Yeah. So can you tell my audience where you grew up and how you found yourself in this field?
Sure. Well, thank you, first of all, Dustin, for having me on. Awesome to be here. I love your enthusiasm. And it's just great to be talking about the books and talking about the subject. So I guess I'm from New York City, grew up in New York City. I did spend some time out in California and came back to New York, completed my undergraduate degree in New York, but I did some studies out at Berkeley, and then came back to New York and completed my master's degree in English. So I teach composition at CUNY, the City Tech. So I teach to, they're tech students who they don't necessarily want to write. And now with ChatGPT, it's a huge challenge. But we come up with I try to be very creative and to get them to speak their own voice. And what's amazing, Dustin, is I get them to critique each other, to find ways to express their authentic voice. And then I hear them, when I'm doing that, I hear them then demanding from the other students to do the same. It's a fascinating process.
Wow, that's funny.
And it's great to touch these young minds and to give them the latitude to just say, hey, do you want ChatGPT to tell you what you think? Why don't you tell me what your thoughts are? And it's interesting. But in addition, I'm a journalist. I've focused a lot on music and broadly across the music spectrum. Rock and roll, jazz. I've done a lot of bluegrass writing. So for a guy from Queens, New York, to have gotten the bluegrass bug, but when you get it, man, you get it.
That's awesome.
And, it's kind of, as I said to you before we started to record, bluegrass is that kind of thing. It's like the UFO subject. It's very subculture, and the people who actually investigate this thing, who look into it beyond the mainstream news reports. And I'm talking people who have PhDs in religion or philosophy or hard sciences. It's really a small world, and so it's interesting that I found some parallels in those two worlds, bluegrass and UFO
That's
subject.
Yep.
So I would say I come to this as I've always been deeply interested in science fiction, and I was a philosophy major undergrad, very interested in consciousness, in the philosophy of science. So the philosophy of science is you apply kind of rigor to how science is done, and in a sense, you what you discover is that science doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens within a context. And the language, the tools, the focus of science is influenced by all kinds of things like economics, by the worldview of the time. So for instance, like as an example, I'm not denying evolution, but Darwin's view of evolution comes very much out of the Industrial Revolution in England. So it's very much informed by that. There are people like Carl Sagan was married to this woman, Lynn Margulis, who had this notion of coevolution. And she was kind of laughed at. This was, I think, in the 60s or early 70s. Oh, she's a hippie, coevolution, man. And
pseudoscience.
Right. It was sort of looked at as fluff.
Okay.
And her idea was that, the soil, the insects, the animals, the biota, the birds, the grass, the mycorrhiza, the fungi, they all kind of co-evolve to work together. And I'm not saying to work together each component of the ecology kind of evolves to meet the demands of what is being offered in that context.
Hmm.
And so now this is what scientists actually agree more with her. It's not like they're bifurcated or siloed kind of
Yes.
things.
I actually heard
Um,
about like the fungus is like almost kind of a connection between the trees, and they kind of
yes,
talk through them. Like a tree's injured and it'll send nutrients through the fungi to the trees.
right, yeah,
Kind of makes
yeah.
like an avatar place, you know, we actually live
Yeah,
in. Yeah, it's
well, it's
amazing.
cool. It's the
Yeah.
mycorrhiza. So
Yeah.
the mycorrhizal loom on the carpet of the say the forest floor,
Hmm.
it kind of creates this network of communication, and
Yes.
scientists don't really understand it.
No.
This network of communication that, like you said, it warns trees downwind. It also may do some cooperative things, like sometimes you'll have, like, say there's some kind of fungus on a leaf.
Yep.
That leaf is in the shade, and so because it's in the shade, it's not getting sun. The fungus will provide uh, it'll do conversion to provide nutrients and nourishment. So the leaf lets it hang on itself, the fungus, because there's a kind of like, hey, there's a kind of, you scratch my back, I'll scratch your
Yes.
leaf kind of deal.
Yeah. Isn't that
Um,
amazing?
cool stuff.
That is super
And
cool.
you mentioned something about indigenous earlier, and these are nothing new in the ideas of indigenous worldviews, that there's interconnection, that we're connected to each other. I just listened to something on Sunday, and um, the chief was saying that the way that they view the world is that it's made up of waves.
Mm,
Everything is made up of waves, and that we are just an instance.
mm.
We're like a radio that tunes into that wave.
Okay.
Um,
Frequency wave, you're saying, right?
yeah, just
Hmm.
some kind of, and I'm not even sure exactly what kind of wave, but that's their view. And I mean, quantum mechanics is kind of telling us that the universe is made up of not of objects, but of excitations
Mm.
at the subatomic level. And there are things like spookiness at a distance, the interconnectedness of things far away. I kind of got off the beaten track there, but the way that I came into this was as someone uh, interested in consciousness, the mystery of consciousness, interested in uh, science certainly, but also the critique of science. Um, and then I came into it was, I think, Jeff Kripal's book, The Flip.
Mm.
And that I read that book, I don't remember when because it's been a while ago, and it just blew my mind.
Mhm.
I've since become, friends with Jeff. He's a professor of religion at
Okay.
Rice University, and he's sort of like the spiritual leader for all of us because he's provided a framework to talk about these things. And I think,
Mm.
like you've probably experienced, Dustin, that when you talk about this, you'll sometimes almost instantly get a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, that must have been a delusion. That must have been a hallucination. You probably banged your head or
Mhm.
something. But the fact is that in all of the research I've done, things happen that are inexplicable, and they go back to antiquity, and it goes across culture. So there are things that occur. It could be, an apparition. It could be um, some kind of encounter with a being, and often is the case, those beings tend to vary according to culture, how people experience it. It's interesting that there was a period where people were experiencing things that were metal objects, that
Mm.
are UFO. You can knock on it, it kind of like the disc behind you.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's certainly the period I grew up in, that's it was a spaceship because we grew up in the space era.
Yeah.
And I'm not denying that people don't see those things. I think what I'm saying is there's some kind of co-creation, so that there are phenomena we do not understand, and we can speculate until the cows come home. Is it interdimensional?
I was going to say
You know,
interdimensional.
Have they already been here? We can speculate endlessly. We really just don't know. And it's at the point where even it's funny how they frame it. I saw the Age of Disclosure with I don't know if you know James Ian Doley.
Yes,
Um,
I have. I've seen it too. Yeah.
and he's an awesome podcaster and a great guy, nice guy. And we went to see it together. All the Illuminati, all the big, honchos were there. It was kind of cool. And there's like, hey, look over there. That's you know. Um, but in all seriousness, there was a premiere viewing. So you had like these military and former military, CIA kind of high brass folks, and this was in New York City and downtown. You were surrounded by kind of protection. So
Mm.
there was this group of people would have to be protected. But my point is, they're framing it as there's a threat. Kind of they sort of spin it a little differently by the end of the movie. But the way it's basically being framed is that they're objects in the sky. They pose a threat to pilots and to whomever, this kind of
Right.
thing. Um, they have to pose it that way because, frankly, I think most of certainly the mainstream, I don't think they don't have enough knowledge and perspective to look at this in a broader way. Because, you sound crazy when you say, well, it could be a shape-shifting thing. It manifests in some way like it's looking into your mind,
Hmm.
and that's trippy.
Yeah.
Um, I do think that dreams are valid ways to experience this. I've had very vivid dreams. I write about it in For All We Know and in UFO Symphonic. I think altered states also. And people like John Mack talked about how trauma is very much associated with this. So, uh,
I was gonna pull up some of your
oh,
books. Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, For All We Know. Great, great. I love what you did with the light on the
Yeah. Did
advertisement.
you
You
like
think
that? It went on
that
and
was
off.
cool, man. That was
I
great.
got you, bro.
Yeah, and for a second, that was really awesome, Dustin. Is if you look at that, so for a second, you see that first of all, the title For All We Know, I'm not posing anything. It's very speculative. These are stories that are written in a narrative format. So this is a novel, it's a novella written it's the kind of arc of discovery. And this younger person who doesn't believe in anything, it's kind of loosely based on my experience. It is.
Hmm.
Um, I shouldn't say that. It's very much based on my experience. Um, and who doesn't believe in anything, who's very doubtful. I wanted to show this arc of slow discovery. And in this book, also, while there are encounters with anomalous experiences, there's also a discovery of nature. I mean, I grew up in Queens. To me, birds were birds. I didn't know that there were different
Oh
types of
man,
birds.
that's interesting that you said that. Do you see the new Spielberg trailer?
I
This float.
haven't. No.
Oh, after this, you better go look at this up.
But tell me
It,
about it for a sec, because I'm curious to know why.
oh no, because you just talked about nature. It
Yeah.
involves all these. Well, it's obvious aliens, but like it seems like nature comes together where birds and the animals are starting to interact with humans, like getting drawn in more. Like everything is, it's
Interesting.
yeah. So I think you know what you're.
So maybe Spielberg read my book because
Yeah, he might have.
I want some royalties. So it's very much that really what I'm saying is that there's so much intelligence, rich intelligence that's right here in front of us.
Yes.
The sounds of birds, the symphony of birds, the just the complexity of nature, the ecosystem, oceans. Um, um, there's we were discussing the mycorrhiza, the loom of the web of the forest. I mean, can be folded into that as well. But
Yeah.
there's so much intelligence, and it's basically screaming out to us to pay attention to it. And for
Yeah.
the most part, we don't. There are sometimes people who have extraordinary experiences, maybe a near-death experience, people who have um, some kind of experience that exposes them to, it takes them out of their egocentric view of the world, of the universe, and it says, wow, okay, it causes what John Mack called an ontological shock. You've been knocked on the head, and now suddenly you stop only thinking me, and my job, my work, my I do this, these kind of utilitarian things, and you may open your mind to this broader uh, this broader ecosystem of beings. They're right here, and we're not paying attention to them. Largely as a culture. I mean, you just look at the consumer culture we have. It's we're paying attention to our phones. We're chasing um, we're chasing illusions, really, for the most
Mhm.
part. And I think what the UFO subject does, it's at its heart, to me, it's an esoteric experience that uh, it takes us out of our ego, and it points us to the fact that we don't know everything, and maybe we should keep our minds open to, yeah, is it a people see an object in the sky? We have countless eyewitness testimonies. We have, the Tic Tac videos. There are multiple modalities of radar
The
and
whistleblowers, yeah.
whistleblowers. I mean, you have it from the upper echelons of the highest level of people who are their job is to use their excellent observation
Yes.
skills backed with technology that can corroborate that. But you
Yep.
also have people, everyday people that have all kinds of experiences. And it can come from the farmer in the field, the
Yeah.
lawyer down the street, anyone. It could be anyone. Um, and so this idea of keeping our minds open, it could be that that flying saucer. I love the term flying saucer. I love the term UFO. I'm a
Yeah.
science fiction guy. Grew up
Yep.
in the 70s with these. This is my inventory of imagery. This is I call it mythology, to not to say it's not real. It's just these are the conceptual frameworks that I view the world in.
Yeah.
um, Superhero among that too. um, and so this idea that, to me, that's the really interesting thing. And so in this book, for all we know, this character kind of goes through, I think most people will be able to relate to them, uh, experiences that sometimes it's an altered state. There
Yes.
certainly there's people that are very interested in um, uh, people who take DMT, and why is it that the the trajectory of that experience is often, the mycelium kind of
Hmm.
just sort of melts away. Something comes, picks me up, takes me away, takes me to some far-flung place. This highly evolved being,
Hmm.
so often with a sense of humor, making
Yeah.
fun of us, making fun of, but in a playful way, sometimes
Sure.
in a trickstery way,
Yep.
and then shows us, oh, look here, all of this amazing, like, technology and objects, polyhedrons and complex
Yeah.
mathematical things and
Yeah.
sophisticated tools, and this display of things. And this sounds like stuff you read about in religious texts. It sounds like stuff you'll read about in, you know certainly in the Bible, and in other religious texts.
Yeah.
um,
I
I'll
was gonna touch
pause
up.
there for a minute. Yeah.
I was gonna touch upon this. I don't know if you heard much about Iceland's phenomenon. Have you
Like, as
dabbled
of
into
recent.
or just the history
Well,
of
tell me,
Iceland?
tell me. I mean,
Yeah.
I
So
know a little bit, but not what
I
you're
had a
talking about.
guest on here that her homeland is Iceland, and
Mm,
she's very knowledgeable of like what goes on and still continues to go on in Iceland. There's a thin layer parallel universe to share with the elves, and they're like
wow.
human elves, like nice clean cut blondes, the ones you see in like Lord of the Rings. That's what she
Right.
described them to me. And she's saying like in the remote past and in now people of today have relationships with these elf people, like
Mm,
sexual relationships, and
mm,
some of the people just disappear, and then they won't build roads or they won't move rocks on Iceland without gaining the permission of the elves, and this is the government doing
mm,
this.
hmm. Don't
So
mess with
I don't know
elves.
exactly. I don't know if
Yeah.
they write a note in a bottle and throw it near the cove to
Uh,
say, "Hey, we need to
yeah.
move this rock over here to build this road." But no, the skeptics of Iceland, and there's only like I'd say only 30% of the people of Iceland don't believe of the elves. That's a lot. I mean, it's very
Yeah.
little, Um, but no, people try to build roads and move rocks without the permission and died, got sick, machinery would just be smashed, and then the rocks would be moved back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Saying like, "Oh, don't fuck with us." And then
Right.
they even tell you, the newcomers of Iceland, don't throw rocks around Iceland because you might hit one of these interdimensional beings, and they will kidnap you and tie you
Mm.
to a tree and like trickster gods things.
Yeah.
The fact that like it's so prevalent and it's so real in Iceland that they're like dead serious about it. Like, and the government takes it dead serious. I'm like, the fact that the government is so involved, there must be an extraterrestrial bounce. And then like the new Spielberg movie, it really I think points out that they live amongst us the whole time.
Right.
It's
Right.
like it's pointing to that direction
Yeah.
where like it's starting to open up where like they're just trying to reveal themselves now, So
Right.
no,
And that's
it's
interesting. It's
yeah.
interesting because, there's in different cultures, they're called different things, jinn,
Yes.
DJINN, there are
Yep.
different genie or
Yep.
gnomes or
Yep.
fairies, and
Fairies,
just
yep.
various throughout ghosts or apparitions or, there's different terms. The thing is that when who is it? Paul Bowles. Paul Bowles was a writer, and I just was on what you just said. He was a writer, like pre-beat writer, and he
Hmm.
lived in Morocco. And his wife was involved in the local kind of
Lore and stuff.
spiritual stuff, which
Yeah.
kind of got a little dark and stuff. And his wife, so she died,
Mm,
and he was asked, "Do you believe in magic?" And he said, "It's not a matter of belief; it's a matter of avoidance."
mm,
And I thought that was an interesting answer. But to have respect, and I think that kind of comes back to this whole idea of egocentric. I think we as humans, we walk around often feeling like we're one-upping nature. We're one-upping. We know more. And nature's got a sense of humor and has a way of putting us in our place. And I don't understand how that it's not scientific to say, well, I just don't understand everything. I have one slightly evolved monkey brain that can do admittedly, some incredible things. I mean, we can build computers and we
right.
can build amazing structures and come up with
Spaceships.
medicines, spaceships. Um, but it's sort of like saying, because my plumber can fix the pipes, he understands the universe. I don't think there's equivalence there. It's we should. My feeling is, and I don't. It's not. I'm not preaching to anyone. I think it's healthy in most spiritual systems. In my book that's coming out, I did a lot of research on Tibetan Buddhism and some of the folklore, and things that you mentioned, beings that disappear,
Yeah.
beings that be in two places at once. And
Hmm.
even amongst the Tibetans, some of them will say, well, that's just folklore. But then there are others that say, no, that stuff really happened. And there are interesting, fascinating books about that. And I think it's it's okay with me that I don't understand everything. I mean, we it's important to know enough to to be functional in the world. I'm a father. I have two sons, a husband. I have to be. I'm a hard worker.
Cool.
I'm not denying doing. I'm not saying just go sit on a mountaintop and wait for the mothership to come. I mean, if I could do that, I would. Uh, but I, it, it's probably the one of the lessons, and that's what the movie The Age of Disclosure, it kind of gets to that toward the end. It hints, but it doesn't want to alienate the mainstream. I think that's the main thing. They don't want to say this is an esoteric thing where and get into some philosophical discussion about how you define consciousness. That will lose the average person watching television or going to a movie. And it's not because they're not smart. It's not none of that. It's because they're not interested or they're not ready for it, whatever the case might be.
Sure.
Um, I think you have to be ready for.
Me
this
too.
thing, and,
Yeah.
or it grabs you by the collar and says, boom, throws you up against the wall and says,
Exactly. Like when I saw my
hey,
UFO sighting, I was like, "Holy shit, that's
right,
real."
you didn't have a choice there,
No, man, I was right like a deer in his headlights there. But no, it was
yeah,
amazing. It definitely changes your mind where you want to see. Like, again, if you see my room, it's all decked out in like UFO memorabilia. I
yeah,
spent
stuff.
I spent thousands and thousands of dollars getting my hands on everything that I can get. Like I have autographs from like I'm sorry, Travis Walton to
Mm,
Calvin Parker and Pestegula.
yeah.
I have even like I got this. I talked to a guy in Ukraine before the war started. Uh, he wanted to get rid of his UFO shit because I think the war is about to pop, and I think maybe he thought the shit was gonna to get destroyed. I have some like original photographs from Ukraine and newspaper clippings from Ukraine of like the
Mm,
same picture and stuff. It's really cool. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's this kind of it's a, at best I think it's a humbling thing,
It
and
is.
maybe whatever is going on, whoever the beings are, maybe they're us, possibly, or
Mm.
some aspect of us, some reflection, or what, however consciousness works. Again, all we can do is speculate. But what is, we're not ready, certainly as a species. I mean, look at our state of the world today. This kind of chest beating bravado, this kind of
Yeah,
this
it's going
machismo.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this kind of, and it's happening around the world.
yeah.
And of course, there are wars going on, and we as a species are. I don't think we're presenting ourselves to any other. If there's another, because I could be us too. Is my feeling. This could be some echo of who we are and how consciousness works. We're all connected. It's some kind of calling back to us or us from the future. That's where the science fiction
Space
kicks in for
Odyssey.
me.
It's that
Yeah, yeah,
monolith. They're all like
yeah.
monkeys beating you up.
Right. It can only be attributed to human error.
Yeah, right.
Will I dream? Uh,
Bye,
there's
David.
right, right. There's all kinds of stuff. One of the things that in UFO Symphonic, so I took going from For All We Know, that narrative. Um, and I thought it was important to start with the narrative. And I have to say, when I began writing that book, I was just steeped in the ufological lore and the literature, and I was reading stuff and in communication with Diana Pasulka, Jeff Kripal, and other people, Whitley Strieber. And what I was, because I'm so interested in music, I was beginning to think, what's the connection between music and the phenomena? Now Spielberg, bum 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 bum,
Yes. Yeah.
this kind of connection, this
Yeah.
uh, you know, at its very base, language. If you don't speak the same language as I do, we can't communicate. And of course, if we
Yes.
can, it's amazing how, while I'm speaking in real time, Dustin, from my brain, my mouth is using the muscles to get out the
Yes.
words I am saying. I mean, that's just an incredible thing.
It is.
Uh, it's like, whoa. But, music does something different because it operates, I like to say it deliteralizes.
Hmm.
And so music takes you out of yourself in the way that maybe like hearing, church bells ring
Yes.
or,
So I can totally
or,
agree with you because I didn't tell you I was in a band. I was the
huh,
lead singer in the band. So
oh,
we had that
cool.
connection of
Mm,
music and my family too. They all had the music drive. But I, I loved it. I
yeah,
wish I was still doing it. I don't do it as much anymore because it's a pain in the ass with the band.
yeah,
Again,
loading stuff around and whatnot.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then clashing of heads of ideas and stuff.
right,
But
right.
no, it was fun. I was doing it for at least 15 years, just doing shows all around
Awesome.
Wisconsin and stuff. It was awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
that's
fun.
that's great. I mean, there's clashing of ideas in the band I'm in, and it's just me in the band, so
Yeah.
I'm the only one.
Damn
Yeah,
you.
yeah. It's like I played 11, 11. You see, it's one more. But I play out, but I'm a, I'm a devoted guitar player, but I will admit, I'm not professional, and as a journalist, I get to meet musicians who are professional, and I just say, okay, I can't do that. That's pretty cool. Um, but this idea that music, and what I discovered is, in UFO Symphonic, what I
Oh
discovered
yeah,
is that
I'll
it's
pull it
not
up.
just music, it's sound. And this sound
Yes.
has a way of taking us out of ourselves. Now, I went, and I want you to observe one thing here. So you'll notice
Hmm.
now that the UFO now is up in the mind of the being.
Mm.
And
Okay.
so, whereas the being was looking up at the UFO has
Yes.
been ingested and now is kind of, and I talked to the artist, Pat Singer, who she's done the art for most of my books, and she's a great
Cool.
artist, and she'll usually read an early draft of what I'm working on, and we'll talk about it. And then she's a great artist. She'll come up with a conception
That's sick.
that, and I'm like, yeah, it helps me to, even as I'm in a draft stage of the book, to have some image to, as an artist, I like to kind of think in images. Um,
Yes.
but I realized, Dustin, that it was more than just say music. Um, it is sound. It could be, now you have like frequencies, uh, at different megahertz. Sound could be, it could be meditative, or it could be more like there's the God frequency, which is kind of, it gushes you and bubbles you up, and you're more on the, like, inspired. You're more inspired than in a meditative state. Um, and sound has a way of, we can communicate. We don't have to speak the same language. Um, and I could hear something, and it has a transformative, powerful effect on me, whether it's just a memory of something that happened, um, connecting people in stadiums, national anthems. Major events are usually accompanied with some type of music, weddings, funerals. It's deeply spiritual, and it's one of the senses that are, I think, underexplored. We're such a visual people and visual culture, but the sound of birds. I work where we live. It's hard to believe I live in Brooklyn, but we have there are parks nearby, and we have a
Hmm.
huge variety of bird species.
Oh,
And
cool.
when spring comes, man, it's like that. The chorus and symphony of birds is palpable, and I feel like they're saying something. They're sending a message that to the whole, to the entire Earth as a planet, but I'm not understanding it. And it's some kind of like how to build an interdimensional kind of a time travel device. They're chirping it out, but we're not.
Yes.
We're just going, well, that's just a bird. I wish that bird would stop, kind of thing.
I really can't wait till you see that trailer because there's the birds are involved in this. It's in the
Yeah.
sound. No, seriously, it's gonna be right up your alley. You're gonna trip out.
I'm gonna definitely watch it after this, and then I'm gonna write a letter to Spielberg and say,
Straight up,
give
dude.
me
He might have
credit,
he
bro.
might have he might have taken some of your
Yeah.
ideas there. No, seriously, it's so weird that you're saying that, and the fact that I've been watching that trailer over and over again, so I get the chills, man.
Yeah.
It really it sparks something. I think this is the greatest timing with all this other stuff that other disc I love how Congress this is the slow drip of disclosure. The fact that
Right.
Congress is even talking about UFOs in the beginning, and then the fact that we're having multiple, it's just nonstop. And I bet there's more in the future, it's
Yeah.
especially when they make themselves known. So,
Well, I mean, disclosure has happened, so it's
yeah,
just that people are not paying attention. They don't care, or it's too mind blowing to, I can't pay my bills. I'm dealing with some kind of trauma, or whatever. Um, why do I care about that? It's not relevant. But let's face it, Dustin. I mean, the cat's out of the bag.
yeah,
You have the front page of the New York Times. You have
yes.
various media outlets talking about this.
You have
That,
scientists like Professor Avilope talk about
yeah,
this, like
exactly.
serious people.
And then you have, very, as we mentioned earlier, people that have nothing to gain. When you come out and talk about this stuff, you have nothing to gain,
Nothing.
except you're going to maybe get the stink eye from a relative or something that like, oh my God, he's embarrassing us. My feeling is like, hey, I'm curious. I'm a curious person. Why aren't you curious? I mean, do you really think that
It's very
this
true.
is it? That like this, your 9 to 5, Monday to Friday job, and that we have squared the whole meaning of existence? I mean, do you really think?
Exactly right.
I don't think so. And I think also if people who have altered states experiences, and that altered state could be like you had, you you encountered a phenomena that you couldn't foot, you couldn't square that. What is this?
Right.
Sometimes it's an altered state that is brought on by, it could be some kind of a psychedelic plant, or people get into car accidents and then uh, go into other realms of being. Um,
Yes.
James Iandoli, who I was talking about, he actually has a story because I collected stories from experiencers. So I
Oh,
have
cool.
like um, I narrate a nonfiction book, UFO Symphonic is. So I narrate throughout the book, but I included experiencer accounts. So
Oh,
James had an experience where he was in a car accident. Well, I think it's been a while since I've read his story, but he was seeing an object. He was
hmm.
seeing something that was like uh, it was what is it, like plasma like object. First it looked like a solid object, and then it became plasmatic, and not so kind of hard shell thing, and he was following it. um, but what interested me, because I'd heard him talk about his story when he was on, it was either his podcast or he was on someone else's, is that at some point he heard this symphonic music, this beautiful, lush, most incredible music that he'd ever heard. And so I was very
Hmm.
interested in that sometimes it happens, sometimes that there's a musical accompaniment. And it's the kind of music that's like goes up your spine and tingles, and it like you get hair raised on your back and your neck and stuff. Not that anyone has hair on their back, mostly on the back of their neck.
Hmm.
And but it's also silence, right? People like you
Hmm.
had.
Yep.
But
It's
that
dead silent.
silence is a kind of sound. There's a space that silence creates, and the silence has a presence,
Yeah. I
and
think the
like a
birds even stopped
magnetic.
chirping too. It was like,
Yeah,
remember, it was almost deafening, right when
yeah,
it was coming overhead. It was like, it was like, what the fuck? You know?
right, right.
Oh,
And there's a term for it. I'm not remembering it right now, but when people encounter the phenomena, there's a kind of there's it's not twilight, but it's this kind of state that things become more illuminated, the air becomes thinner, uh, space kind of dissolves,
right.
this kind of thing. And in my question, so what I asked people when I was writing UFO Symphonic, I said, tell me about an experience that connects music to the inexplicable. So I got all kinds of, it wasn't one story told 10
Oh,
times over.
crazy.
It was people had experiences with an instrument
Huh.
and how it sort of, someone talked through an instrument, someone who was deceased. Um,
Oh, it's funny you said that too. Now I think
yeah.
another. Right. Ever seen the movie Communion? That old one in
Oh,
the 80s?
yeah, that's the Strieber one. Yeah,
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 yeah. There's a part in there where he's in the UFO with the aliens and there's music playing, he's dancing around.
yeah, yeah.
It's like again, this music kind of chill and relax the people, something that kind of reminds them of home or I don't know. I just find that's eerie too that they had that
Yeah.
connection of music being played in the spaceship.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's this thing of when you hear music, it can put you in a trance,
Yes.
and it's very much music is we just don't think about that consciously.
Hmm.
I've been thinking about it for the past 4 years deeply, and so and researched everything I could. I mean, people use music to. I was doing Tai Chi for a while, and
Hmm.
so when you do Tai Chi, you'll often they'll have music accompaniment, um, and you'll move around, in this ecstatic way, and in a way to you're generating energy. You're kind of by moving around, you're you're getting your chi up,
Yeah.
and so much so that you can feel it. I mean, you literally can feel the energy, shooting off of your fingertips.
I've seen
And
videos of a guy lighting stuff on fire with his hands.
exactly, yeah. So I saw James showed that it was a Chinese
Yeah.
master,
Yep.
and he was able to, they didn't believe him. They came with equipment, shook his hand, and was like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah, and they
And he
touched it,
was,
or like touched his
yeah,
stomach and
right, right. And it looks. I mean, that documentary looked very
pretty legit.
believable,
Yeah.
and because those guys were skeptics, they were like, "This guy's full of shit. I don't believe this stuff. It's nutty." And but he had hot hands, that dude, and he
Yeah.
and maybe not everyone gets to that level. In
Right.
Tai Chi, I mean, you can take it, perhaps you can levitate. So if you
Yes.
get to a certain level, or perhaps you can dissolve, you can kind of just disappear.
There's a
Um,
woman in Russia that was really good with telekinesis back in the 50s. And
mhm.
like they had video of her with like glass domes on over matches, and she's just like going crazy with the matches inside. And
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's wild what people can do. I mean, we have extraordinary potential. Um, one of the things that I think it alludes to in the age of disclosure, but what this stuff is alluding to is that each person has extraordinary potential.
Mm.
We hardly scratch the surface. We're so absorbed, and I'm not putting any of that down. We go through, people have depression, and you have responsibilities, and there's all kinds of stuff. But when you're knocked in the head by some experience, and it may make you look outward and look inward,
Mm.
and maybe oftentimes is the case, people become more spiritual. And if the average person, citizen, can remote view, if the
Mm.
average person, citizen, can be in two places at once,
Yeah.
can have these extraordinary powers, let's say, capabilities, that's kind of dangerous to the government.
Yeah.
I mean, they're being dragged by their neck, to have to say this. They don't want to say this stuff.
Hmm.
Congress, and the testimonies of Straver and other pilots have made them come forth, because people were out there saying it, and they released videos, they released information.
Yeah.
So like the stuff that Grush is talking about, and I do
Oh yeah.
realize that
Crush. Yeah.
we can't really trust the government. There's all
You
kinds of
can't
things
touch,
there.
really can't trust Congress either.
You can't
They're still
trust
gonna,
Congress.
they're gonna still lie to, they're
Yeah.
not gonna, again, the full, again, if we get the whole kick and caboodle, no one will go back to work and all the crazy religious folk would jump off the rooftops.
Right. I mean, it's really about uh, disclosure. To me, is your own self exploration, and thinking through who you want to be and how you want to connect with the world and other people, making a positive impact on the world. That, to me, that's the important thing. The other stuff is, I mean, I'm fascinated by it. I'm not really following it so much, because I feel it's mostly disappointing, and their
Hmm.
emphasis is on stuff I'm not interested in.
Sure.
Really, I don't really care about the military stuff. I don't care. I mean, they don't. There's poison in our food. They're polluting our waters. Uh, you know, our oil and energy obsession is destroying the ecology. They don't care about us. And your self-realization is a kind of danger to the bottom line. It's a
Yeah.
danger to the quarterly results, because you're not buying more shit. You're not getting more whatever widgets, things that you don't need, consumer stuff, to fill up your mind and uh, your just fill up your world with stuff. I'm not saying it's nice to have good things. I like to have nice things,
Yeah.
I want to get some nice things for Christmas. I mean, I'm spending all this money. I hope I get something nice. Um, but it's nice to have nice things
Yeah.
we're chasing. And I'm interested to see what Spielberg is saying is, something like what I've been saying in some of my work is that,
I really want to hear your feedback. Seriously, when you
yeah,
watch it,
well,
please
yeah,
like
we'll
say,
talk about
"Hey,
it.
yeah, please." I mean, have
Yeah,
you back and we talk.
yeah,
Have you
definitely.
back. Have you talk about it. But no, seriously, I really like to hear your feedback. Text me. I'd like to
Yeah, I
see.
would. Yeah,
You're
well,
right,
that's.
dude. That was just like what I said.
I'm gonna listen to it after this. I know I have to tend to my son,
Yeah,
um,
here in like 5 minutes.
but but so that's really what I've been up to. That's where I've been going at this, and I think that my music focus, and it's not just music, it's sound. I discovered that I didn't actually, that wasn't my intention. I was going down the path of exploring the music aspect and connection, but I realized there's a woman, Marla Fries, who's just wonderful. She wrote a book called American Psychic, and she and I started to talk a few years ago. And she said, you need to speak to this guy that does gong yoga.
Mm,
And I spoke to him, and fascinating. I wrote about it in UFO Symphonic. So using gongs,
mm,
and they ring at
yep.
different frequencies, and they kind
Yes.
of select different gongs based upon the horoscope, the position of planets. And he said, I have men walk in here, a guy walk in with his wife, and he's like, yeah, I just came here for my wife. I'm gonna go out and smoke a cigarette. And they come in, they'll do begrudgingly because their wife dragged them along, and they'll go do the gong yoga, and then they'll get up and have like a pool of, their eyes are wet from crying from some emotional epiphany or some profound thing that occurred. And I know for a fact, because I've done, you do sound baths or gong yoga,
Yeah.
you have very powerful sound. What I say is there's an ecology of being, and sound taps you into this larger, what Jung called the collective unconscious, this other thing that connects. It's kind of like that mycorrhizal loom that connects everything. Um, I wanted to tell you as an example because I feel like this is a good analogy. I
Yeah.
keep a dream journal, right?
Cool.
I keep a dream journal, and then I look at it. My son does now too. I have two sons, but the younger one keeps a dream journal, and we will read back and forth to each other. And when I read the dream journal, first of all, the stories are perfect. They're
Hmm.
perfect. Like I don't write them. All I do is record them. And
Oh,
what it appears to me is like I'm basically reproducing folklore. I'm reproducing encounters with the elves. I'm reproducing encounters with dwarves. Um, why is that? Because when we're dreaming, we're tapping into that
right.
uh, that larger interconnected realm of being that is timeless and boundless.
Yes.
And I am not writing, I'm not creating these stories. All I'm doing is a scribe putting them down. In a way, music functions like that. It taps you into
Hmm.
that, whether it's on a conscious level, because sometimes I'm listening to
Right.
music and I'm just, oh, I'm remembering back when I was hanging out with Dustin. We were down by
Yeah.
the yards, the shipyard, and we were,
Yeah.
smoking a joint and looking out on the water and how great that was, and talking about high school, or or it could be something deeply emotional or an
Mm,
epiphany,
yes.
or it just puts you in an altered state where things happen.
Yeah. Some music makes me cry. Like that
Exactly.
deep
Yeah.
classical music. I'm like, Jesus,
Yeah.
whoa. Hit
My
my heartstring.
Yeah, my mother used to, my mother was not like an overly emotional person, but she would like get choked up hearing like the old Neapolitan songs like "Oh Sole Mio,"
Oh
and
yeah.
she would just say, that was the time I'd see her, this strong, really independent person, and then I would see her, and
What
get
nationality are you?
Italian.
Ah,
Yeah.
I'm Sicilian.
Yeah. I'm half Sicilian, half
Oh yeah,
Neapolitan.
I actually
Yeah.
have family in Sicily
Oh
and
wow.
Pacheco. Yeah, that I
Ah,
keep in contact with. Yeah,
really? Do you
cousins
speak
and
it?
aunts and uncles. No, I don't.
Yeah.
But I use Google Translate with my cousins. But my cousins know English too, because they actually went to school here at the UW to take some English,
Right.
and
Right.
actually stayed with us and us family members that all live in Madison here. No, it's awesome that we have this connection. I just found out too that I can get citizenship now that because my grandmother's the one that came over, and
Right.
they didn't have females that you could take the citizenship. You had to have a male that went over. They just changed the law recently, so I'm like,
Wow.
oh.
Another option.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So that's a whole other interesting discussion. But just watching my mom get moved by that music, and I, now I love that music too. I mean, I listen to
cool.
it, and you got to listen to it at like rock concert levels to get the
Yes,
throbbing in your chest, and
yes.
the kind of my wife is like, why are you listening to this like at that volume? Are you trying to scare the neighbors?
Well, hey man, I know you have to get going, but hey, you tell us my fans where they can find you and your
Yeah.
books. Yeah,
Hey, brother, I just want to say thank you so much. It's been so much fun, really. Thank you.
that's
And I want
right.
to do
I'm
this
gonna have you
again.
back, definitely.
Yeah, let's do it again. If they can go to MikeFiorito.com. That's one word, Mike, Fiorito.com. You'll see information about my books. I think you can order it directly from there. I'd love to hear from you, questions and your insights, folks out there. Thank you for listening. And brother, let's do it again.
Yeah, I'm definitely scheduling you another episode. This is so awesome. We have so much more to talk about, I feel like.
Yeah. We can do it. We'll do it again. Well, have a great night, man, and be well. If I don't speak to you in the meantime, I'm sure we'll have some communications, but have a great Christmas and New Year and all that
All right.
good holiday stuff.
I appreciate it, man. Well, hey, man, stay with me for 2 more minutes.
Yes.